in the last class we saw the BJT structure. So BJT has got three terminals, that is emitter, then second one is base, and third one is collector. So there are two junctions formed. So we call that as J1 and J2. So when J1 and J2 both are forward biased, J1 and J2 can both be reversed bias, and they can both be reverse and forward bias respectively. So this is reverse, this is forward, and then this is forward, and this is reverse. So we saw that last time in our discussion that this is called as saturation mode. Both are reverse bias means cutoff, and this is called as reverse active, and this is called as forward active. Okay, so we have seen that this is the case, and now we want to see how this thing actually works. So we saw the first energy band diagram. In that we saw that how the current cannot flow from emitter side to the base side. So today we will see the second mode of operation, that is when both the junctions are forward bias. So last time we saw both are reverse bias. Now we will see both are forward bias with the help of energy band diagram. So let us start drawing the energy band diagram. So first what will you do? First is always the BJT. In that you will show emitter, then you show the base. Emitter you should show slightly big in size. Then you should show base, and then we have to show some dotted lines like this. And depletion, there are two junctions, J1 and J2. So I'll just mark that J1 and J2. This is N plus P minus, and then here I'll write N. So I'll just draw one more dotted line around J1 and J2. So please draw like this with me. So let's draw these lines in this way. So once you are done copying this much, just write done in the chat box. Then we will draw together. So here what we are planning to do is J1 is forward bias and J2 is also forward bias. to make J1 J2 forward bias, this is N, so I have to connect the negative of the supply here and the positive should go to P. Here N plus means plus sign indicates heavily doped, minus sign indicates lightly doped. It is not actually positive or negative. And this is plus and minus. So this is plus, this is minus, and this is my emitter, this is base, and this is collector. So I'll call this as VBE. I'll call this as VBE because base is connected to positive and negative of the supply is connected to the emitter. And here I'll call this as VBC. VBC, and base acts like the common terminal. So something is forward bias with respect to base and something is again forward bias with respect to base only. So this is the case that we are seeing. Now what happens to the energy band diagram? That is a matter of discussion. So there is no problem in drawing the equilibrium diagram because at equilibrium the Fermi levels of everybody will be aligned with each other. The Fermi levels will be aligned with each other. So once you are drawing till here, just write done in the chat box. So I hope you have drawn this. Okay. Now let us say here this is n plus, right? It is n plus. So here in the case of n plus, you are connecting negative of the supply to n plus. That means you are injecting more electrons into the emitter. So the probability of finding the electrons for conduction is going to increase than before. So how will I show the increase? I will show the increase by drawing this Fermi level above the equilibrium Fermi level. And here also I am injecting electrons inside the collector. So the electron concentration in the collector will try to increase. So you can show that here. Now, what is constant? Base Fermi level, we are assuming it to be constant. So that is what we are assuming, that base Fermi level is constant. And what we have drawn is the EFP. So this is actually the EF. So this is EFN of the emitter. So I'll write EFN plus, and this is EFN of the collector. And now based on this, we will try to maintain the integrity of both emitter and the collector and the base regions. So this is N type. So conduction band will be close to the Fermi level and valence band will be away from the Fermi level. This is p-type material, so valence band is close to the Fermi level and conduction band is away from the Fermi level, and here also conduction band is close to the Fermi level and valence band is away from the Fermi level. So this is my EC and this is my EV. So now I will join this in this way. And this is going to be my energy band diagram. So here what did we actually do? So this shift in the Fermi level is because of VBE. So I'll write this as Q times of VBE because we are showing it on the energy band diagram, and on this side the shift is because of Q times of VBC. So you can see if VBE and VBC increases, these conduction bands will move upwards, and at one particular voltage they will align with the conduction band of the base. So once the conduction bands align in one line, there can be a conduction from emitter to the collector, and that is why this region is called as saturation region. It is called as saturation region. So once you have copied this, please write done in the chat box. Then we will go to J1 and J2 both as reverse and forward bias respectively.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the doping in emitter and collector are different. Then also the conduction band will be at same level.
Actually, it is this way that though the doping levels are different, the sizes are also different. So it
Yes.
means that there is high doping in small space and there is moderate doping in large space. So the total number of charge carriers which are there are almost the same in emitter and collector. But even if that is the case, collector is slightly lesser. Collector is slightly
Okay.
lesser. So that is the reason why you can show some change, but that means conduction band of collector can be slightly lower. So you can see that I have drawn it slightly lower, the conduction band as compared to the emitter. That should also be the case of the valence band, but representation wise this is fine. What we are actually trying to understand is how the conduction bands align rather than what is the exact voltage which will do that.
Okay.
Did you understand, Rutvij?
Ah, sir.
So generally the injection is from the emitter side and the collection is at the collector side. So when you collect something, there are some problems. So that is why collector is designed for a bigger size. So we are just coming to that. So if you are done with this, let's go ahead. Let's go to the next. That is, now we will write here. That is, we will say J1 and J2 are, so we will say J1 is reverse biased and J2 is forward bias. So let's see how you do this. Come on, you will do this, okay? So now what is the change inside this? So the change will be only in the way in which we apply the voltages. That's it. So this VBE and VBC will also change. So now I want J1 is to be reverse bias and J2 is to be forward biased. So how will I do that? J1 is to be reverse bias. So this here I have to connect positive of the supply and here I have to keep this forward bias. So this is plus minus VBC and this is plus minus VEB. Come on, draw this like this. So like I said that base is always the reference. So here you are injecting now positive charges. So that is why the electron concentration will come down. And here you are injecting negative. So again the electron concentration is going to go up. And now you maintain the integrity of P and N regions. So here we have, this is N, so conduction will be close to the valence band. Sorry, Fermi level. And you just show this little bit far. And valence band will be away from the Fermi level. This is P, so valence will be close and conduction will be far. And here conduction will be close and valence will be far. So now so this is your EC, this is your EV, and this is EFN, this is EFN plus I, right? here this fall is because of this voltage Q times of VEB, and this is Q times of VBC. So you can see that you require a very small voltage to align the conduction band of collector and base, and on the other side there is a valley, on the other side there is a huge valley, so you are pushing the electrons from the collector over this cliff. So what happens is these electrons will accelerate with a very high velocity and they will get come into the emitter. But the emitter is not designed, it is small in size, it is not designed to handle such high energy electrons, and that is the reason why we do not inject collector emitter electrons from the collector into the emitter, just because emitter the device is not designed that way to handle the current which is going or electrons which are going to come from collector to emitter. So though the injection is possible, the device is designed to get injection from emitter into the collector and not collector into the emitter, and that is why we say that the device is active. We say that the device is active but the other way round, and that is why we call this mode of operation as reverse active. We call this as reverse active, and so we don't want this reverse active because we may damage the emitter when we reverse active the BJT. So the conduction should be in the forward active mode only. Please draw this energy band diagram. Once you are done, just write done in the chat box. So here I am just noting it down that J1 is reverse bias, J2 is forward biased. And now the next mode of operation, that is the most important mode to us, that mode of operation is going to be called as forward active mode, and we will always operate our transistor in the forward active mode because we want amplification. Yes, any doubts in this, please ask. And those who have finished drawing this can start drawing the energy band diagram in the forward active mode. Forward active mode means J1 is forward biased and J2 is reverse biased. So once you complete this, please write done in the chat box. Any doubts, please ask. So again, step number 1 is first draw equilibrium diagram. Step number 2 is draw the Fermi levels as per how you have conducted the bias, how you have connected the bias, and then maintain the integrity of P and N regions, and then join conduction with conductions and join all the valence bands together. So put this thing in your head. Every device in electronics engineering can be visualized in this particular manner with the help of energy band diagram. Are you done with this energy band diagram? Yes, Shruti, are you following this?
Yes, sir.
Manas, what about you? Those who have finished drawing this first diagram, go to the last diagram, that is J1, J2 are forward and reverse bias respectively. Okay, Vinayak, start drawing the next one. Apply your head and start drawing the energy band diagram. Sometimes it is important to go wrong and then correct yourself. Okay, so let us go to the next and the final energy band diagram, that is of I'm just drawing this diagram a little bigger in size. Please note this energy band diagram very properly. Okay? And just for you. Sake of it, I'll just draw it here. Now, here junction J1 has to be forward biased, minus plus. So plus कौन सा terminal है? Base. So that will be V, B, E, and J2 has to be reverse bias. So here minus of the supply and here we have plus. So minus and plus will give me V, C, B. V, C, B. Now, I told you that at any cost, base will always be at the same potential. Its potential will not change, right? Now here, what will happen to the energy band diagram of the on the emitter side? So you can see minus is connected to N plus. That means we are injecting more negative electrons into the emitter. So here we will have energy, the Fermi level in the emitter will come up. Like this, and the Fermi level here, you are injecting what? Holes inside N. So the probability of finding electrons is going to come down. Now what is the next step? We have to maintain the integrity of P and N regions. So here this is N. So conduction band will be close to the Fermi level and valence band will be away from the Fermi level, and here valence band would be close and conduction band would be away. So this is conduction band is away and valence is close, and here I will show conduction band is close and valence is away. So draw this properly. Now what will you do? You will connect the conductions with conduction and valence with valence. So actually our conduction band is this way. So this is our conduction band. I'm just highlighting it. And this is our valence band. So here we have this increase is because of the voltage on this side, so that will be Q times of VBE, and here this is Q times of VCB, not VBC, VCB. Now you can see here that if my VBE increases, the conduction band here will also try to move upwards, and at one point it will align with the base. At one point it will align with the base. Now base collector junction, that is junction J2, is reversed bias. So reverse bias means here there is a big valley. So here we have a valley which is created. This is a valley. And what happens is you are putting the electrons from emitter into the base. So your electrons are moving from emitter into the base. Electrons are moving here. Now the position in the base is that base is very lightly doped. First is what? Electrons move into base. Why they move into the base? Because you are applying the bias VBE. So I'll write due to VBE. Now once electrons comes into the base, the problem in the base is that base is very small, so there is no space for huge number of electrons coming inside the base. And second thing is base is very lightly doped, so there is no much scope for recombination also. There is not much scope for recombination. So few recombinations happen in the base, but majority of the electrons which are inserted from the emitter into the base do not recombine with the p atoms in the base. So now because the base is designed in such a way that it is lightly doped and there is no space in the base, you can see that electrons see a big valley on the other side. The electrons see a big valley on the other side. So that is the reason why they will move from base into the collector under the influence of the electric field, because of VCB, under the influence of the electric field because of VCB. So here this VCB, the electric field because of VCB, is going to be in this direction. The electric field because of VCB will be in this direction. Electrons are coming in this direction. So what will happen? They will come into the base and they see a huge value on the other side. That is why they will try to go into the collector. So let me give you an example that there is a room here, okay, and there are two doors. There is one door on this side, one door on this side, and there is only one chair inside this. I'll call it as C1. And there are around 100 people which are ready to come in this room, or 100 people are asked to go inside this room to sit in this room. Now what will happen is, on the other side I have another room in which I have got 100 chairs. But in between there is only one room which is having one chair. So here we will say in this room 100 people are standing, or rather they are made to stand. So now what I'll do is I'll open this door. So these people are anyway standing. So what they will do? They'll try to go into this room. They'll try to go into the second room. So I'll call this as room 1, room 2 and room 3. Now room 2 is such that it is small. So ye bichare 100 log, if they go inside, they will get cramped up inside. And on top of that, there is only one chair to sit. So out of these 100, one will sit and 99 have to again stand. So now if I open this door also, what will happen is that this one will remain sitting, but these 99 will now move here and occupy these chairs here. But when I open this door, they will come here with huge force, or they will have huge energy because they have been standing long and they somehow desperately now want to sit. So similar thing happens in the case of emitter, base and collector. Emitter, base and collector can be viewed as three different rooms. In the emitter, the electrons are standing and they are forced to go into the base with the help of VBE. But in the base, there are no charges for recombination because base is very lightly doped, and the condition 2 in the base is that base is very small in size. So electrons are in a state where they cannot recombine and they cannot even move. So if I give them some bias from the other side, that is, if I apply bias in such a way to junction 2 that the electric field is favorable for the movement from base to collector, then electrons will move from base into the collector. But when they move from base into the collector, they are coming with tremendous energy. They are coming with tremendous energy. They will have very high velocity. So the velocity of the electrons, when electrons are moving from base to collector, the velocity of the electrons is very high. Velocity is high. And that is the reason why the kinetic energy is given by half mv square. So square times of v. So the Ke, that is the kinetic energy of electrons, will also be very high. And that is why to sustain this kinetic energy, collector is made bigger in size. So if there is some dissipation of heat because of impact ionizations, then the device should be able to handle that. And that is why the collector is made bigger in size. So why emitter is made bigger in size, medium in size and highly doped? Because it should act like the source of electrons. Why base is made small and very lightly doped? Because you don't want electrons to stay there. You want them to stay there only momentarily, and then once there are many electrons accumulated here, they will just simply flow or roll off into the valley and come on the collector side. So if you see the movement of electrons, so the movement of electrons, see here now what I am drawing. The electrons are moving like this. Electrons are moving like this. Some recombine in the base and are collected at the base terminal, and majority of these electrons are going into the collector. So let us say if I inject 100, one goes into the base and 99 are going to come here. So if the direction of electrons is like this, then the current will be in the opposite direction. So if the electrons in the direction of flow of electrons in the collector is from base to collector, then the collector current will flow from collector to base. So I will call this as IC. I will call this as IC. If the electrons are moving downwards inside the base, then my IB will flow like this. So this is going to be IB, and electrons are flowing from emitter into the base. So emitter current would be from base to emitter. Now if you apply KCL on the device, then you can very well observe that IC plus IB is equal to IE. IC plus IB is equal to IE, or in most of the cases what will be written is IE is equal to we will say IE is equal to IC plus IB. So now the direction of flow of the current is fixed, and you can see here that the current comes out of the emitter terminal. Your current goes inside the collector terminal and it comes here inside the base. So that is why the symbol of the transistor is like this. The current is coming out in case of NPN. That is why the arrow is pointing out emitter, base and collector. So that is why this is IE, this is IC, and this is going to be IB. So similarly you can do for a PNP transistor. Please note this. So let us revise this once again. Since the base emitter junction is forward biased, electrons from emitter are injected across the base emitter junction into the base. This creates an excess minority carrier concentration in the base. What is the meaning of that? That is, base is p-type, but you are putting excess of electrons from emitter into the base. As the base collector junction is reversed bias, the electron concentration at the edge of this junction is approximately 0. The base region is very small, point to be noted. Therefore, in the ideal case, the injected electrons will not recombine with any of the majority carriers, that is holes in the base. So ideally there will be no recombinations, but practically there will be some recombinations. So that is very important. The electric field which exists across the base collector region sweeps the electrons into the collector region, creating the collector current. However, if some carrier recombination does occur in the base, the electron concentration will deviate, and that is why we will get some base current too. But the base current is because of very few recombinations, and that is why the base current will be very small as compared to the collector current. To minimize the recombination effect, the width of the base region must be small as compared to the minority carrier diffusion length, and the doping concentration should also be very small. So the base should be small in size, as well as the concentration must be very small. So this is basically the case when it comes to the different currents which are going to be there in the device. Now we want to know certain things. We want to know certain ratios. What are these ratios? So we came to know from this forward active region. Now electrons are moving from emitter into the collector. So this region is called as forward active mode. Now we want to know what is the ratios? That means if IC plus IB is equal to IE, then what is IC upon IB? What is the ratio of this? So I'll call this as beta, and this is called as the current gain. It is called as the current gain of the device. It is called as the current gain of the device. Now, this current gain is typically 50 to 300. So if a BJT has got a gain less than 50, we say it's a bad BJT, and if the BJT has got higher beta values, we say it's a very good BJT. So this is our equation. Now let us define one more ratio, that is IC upon IE. And that is called as alpha. So here this tells me, apart from IC, which are the other two currents, IB and IE. So IC upon IB is called as beta and IC upon IE is called as alpha. Now many times in the exam they will ask you the relationship between alpha and beta. They will ask you the relationship between alpha and beta. So now we can see that in the first place we can see IC is equal to beta times of IB. IC is equal to what? Beta times of IB, because you just cross multiply from this equation, you can write that. Now we will put this, I'll call this as 2 and I'll call this as 1. So just put these 2 in 1. What we will get here is IE is equal to beta times of IB plus IB. Beta times of IB plus IB. Or simply speaking, you can just, if you don't want to do even this, I will give you one more shortcut. In this equation 1, you divide everything by IC. So IE upon IC, that is equal to IC upon IC, and then here we have plus IB upon IC. So IC upon I is alpha, but IE upon IC will be 1 by alpha. This will be 1 plus IB upon IC will be 1 by beta. So now you will just cross multiply the things and you will get the relationship between alpha and beta. So we can write, therefore alpha, or rather 1 by alpha, is equal to beta plus 1 upon beta. Therefore alpha is equal to beta upon 1 plus beta. Beta upon 1 plus beta. And if you want to write beta in terms of alpha, then what will you do? So from this very equation we can write 1 upon beta is equal to 1 upon alpha minus 1. So 1 upon beta will be 1 minus alpha upon alpha. So beta is equal to alpha upon 1 minus alpha. So certain things you should immediately observe. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, you can see my screen. Just restart my one. So we are back. So here we had 1 by beta is 1 minus alpha upon alpha. So beta is going to be alpha upon 1 minus alpha. And you can see from this equation that beta is very large, much greater than 1. So therefore alpha is almost equal to 1 but less than 1. But less than 1. And beta is very large. So this is a small relationship between alpha, beta and IC and IB. Sometimes in the exam they give you this relation and we are supposed to find out the beta from this relation. So that is why you should know that, and that is why I have put it down there. So let's take a break of 5 minutes and then we will resume back. So those who are still copying this can copy and we'll just take a small break of 5 minutes. So at 9:08 we will come back, or rather 9:10. let's start. So let us take a problem. So based on this, let's take a problem just to get the feel of the values. So let's say that calculate IC when beta is 150 and IB is 15 microamperes. So we have to assume that the transistor is in forward active mode, and then we have to also calculate the value of alpha. So a quick solution to this would be something like this. So IC is beta times of IB, so that would be 150 into 15 into 10 raised to minus 6. So that would be 2.25 milliamperes, and IE would be IC plus IB. So that would be IC is just now we calculated that is 2.25 into 10 raised to minus 3 plus 15 into 10 raised to minus 6. So whatever this value is, that is IE, and I think that will come to 2.27 milliamperes. Slight increase in the value of IE, and then we have the value of alpha. So alpha would be simply beta upon 1 plus beta, that is 150 upon 1 plus 150, which is going to be 150 upon 151. And how much is this value? 0. Can somebody tell me the exact value?
Nine nine three three.
0.
9933.
0.99. So this is what is the calculation. Now we have to see some more things, that is the common BJT configurations. BJT configurations. So let's see that. BJT. So you can see that BJT is a 3-terminal device. Now to model the device as a 2-port network, one of the terminals of the BJT must be made common to both input and output side. So basically, if you want to apply some input, it has to be between 2 terminals. And you can see that if you want to take an output also, it has to be taken between 2 terminals. Now in the case of BJT, there are BJT has given the right. In the case of BJT, there is basically only three terminals. So now to is my microphone muted? No, na? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now if you want to give some input or if you want to take some output, we don't have four dedicated terminals. We have only three. And that is why one terminal of the BJT must be made common to both input as well as output side. So now which terminal to make common, that is the question. So that is the reason why now we have to take the help of three, what do you say, three configurations. So we can do that in three different ways because we have three terminals for a device. So that three different ways would be either base is common, either collector is common, or either the emitter is common. So all these three have three different applications. So let us start one by one with each of them. So first one is, we will say there are three combinations, that is common base, then we have common emitter, and then we have common collector. So let us see the block diagrams of all of them together. So we can just have that here. I am drawing four block diagrams, or rather four blocks, three blocks, sorry, not four. So you also draw like this with me. So just draw like this. Now what we will do is we will show the input and the output in a very nice way. Do it this way. So just draw this way, and then we have and draw this way again. So draw with me. draw like this. Every now and then we have to do one terminal common, and we have a BJT which is a 3-terminal device. So it's up to us now what we want to do. So we have a device like this. So inside here, so let's say this is my collector, emitter and base. So what is common here is base. What is common here is base. Then we can have a common emitter configuration. So this is emitter is common. So this is collector, emitter, and then we have base. And then finally we have collector, then emitter, and then we have our base. So these are the 3 different combinations. Now some very important things in each of the combinations, that is, we need to understand that how the direction of the currents are. That is something very important. How to take the directions of the current. So you should always look at the emitter side. So IE is always equal to IC plus IB. So that is the underlying equation that we have, and you can show IE, which is like this. This is IE in the first case. So IC has to be in this direction, and IB will be like this, because IE is always equal to IC plus. Now here, this is my IE. So IC again will be in this direction, and IB would be like this. And here we have IE in this direction. So we have IC and IB. So you can see in all the 3 cases, the input is current and the output is also current. That is why we call this device as a current controlled current device. We call this as a current controlled current device. Now if you see here, we have plus minus. So current is flowing like this. So I'll take this as plus and minus. Just see the direction of the current. It is coming out, so it has to be plus and minus. I will call this as plus minus VBE, because or you can just draw and we will just follow one standard convention. Let us not take any directions. What you see here is, so VEB, and here we have plus minus VCB. This is the input voltage and this is the input current, this is the input output current, and voltage and output current. So similarly here also we have VBE, and the current is flowing inwards, plus minus VCE. So this is VCE, and here we have 2, that is, this is base, this is collector. So here we have VBC, and here we have VEC. So this is emitter, and this is your collector. So this is common base configuration. This is common collector, emitter, sorry. And this is common collector. So please note that this is the input side, this is the output side. Again, this is also the input side, this is the output side, and this is the input side, and this is the output side. So if you are now doing input characteristics and output characteristics, if you want to plot now input characteristics and output characteristics, so here if I tell you that now we are doing common base configuration, then the input characteristics will be that on X we will have VEB and on Y we will have IE. So X is going to be always voltage. On the X axis we will have voltage. On the Y we will have current. So for example, if we talk about common emitter configuration, and if I am doing the input characteristics, then on X I will have VBE, on Y I will have IB. If I am doing the output characteristics, then on X I will have VCE, and on Y I will have IC. So this is how you plot the input and output characteristics of the BJT in different configurations, that is common base, common emitter and common collector. Our interest would be more in common emitter because that is the case where you get a good amplification. So once you do this, just say done in the chat box. Once you are done drawing everything, so just draw logically, okay? First you draw the transistor, emitter, and then you just see this is connected to what? Emitter. This is connected to base. So EB and CB, VEB and VCB. Then in common emitter, common kya hai? Emitter. So you can see here, this is, you can see emitter in both places. On one side you have base, on one side you have collector. In common collector, this is collector and collector, then you have base and emitter. Okay. So like I told you, we are interested only in the common emitter characteristics, because this is the place where we are going to use this as an amplifier, and that is the reason why we are interested only in that characteristics. Though in my notes I have included all three, but here we will talk only about common emitter kind of a configuration. Okay, so let me draw that. So we will see common emitter little bit in detail. So draw this diagram with me. Everybody should draw this diagram with me. Common emitter means first your emitter has to be common. Draw like this. Then here we have, let us say, a resistance. Another resistance. This way. And let's call this as RB and RC because they are connected at base and so the primary condition for amplification is that if you want to see some amplification, then junction J1 is which junction? Emitter base junction should be forward bias, and junction J2 is base collector junction should be reverse bias. So let's identify that first. So here you have plus minus, let's say VBE, and here we can have plus minus VCE. So you can see, you can identify this voltage, but this you can't see anywhere directly. But I can see that is VBC is the voltage here. VBC is, or VCB is the voltage here. This is VC. So common sense should tell you, if you apply KVL, that is VCE is equal to VCB plus VBE. So you can see that the VCE is the voltage between the collector and the emitter, that is on the output side. However, collector and emitter is, if you see from the input side, it will be VCB, this plus this. So you are applying simply KVL. So you can write from here VCB is equal to VCE minus VB. VCE minus VB. So VBE is generally 0.7 volts because this is a forward biased junction, and or a forward biased PN junction, and we have seen that for typical doping values, my voltage drop across a forward bias junction is 0.7 volts. So VCB is equal to VCE minus 0.7. So now we have identified both of them, VBE as well as VCB. So I will also name these two voltages, that is V, I'll call this as V2 and this as V1. Now what flows into the base is IB. So these resistances are used to actually regulate the current. So this is IC. This is generally in, the value of this resistance is in kilo ohms, and this is generally in mega ohms, because IC should be generally in microamperes and this should be generally in milliamperes. So milli upon micro will give you a beta which is in the range of, so beta is IC upon IB. So generally this you will get it as around 50 to 300. Okay. Now, what is the input current IB and what is the voltage here? VBE. So input voltage is VBE, input current is IB, and I told you now first we are going to do input characteristics, and that is why when you do input characteristics, input char, I told you that VBE, which is voltage, will be on X, and IB, which is a current, which will be on Y axis. So what we will get here is simply something like this. I just want to use this XY tool. Okay. So what you get here is, for certain value of VCE, so let's have three different values of VC. Let's say VC is 10 volts, let's say VC is 20 volts, and let's say VCE is 5 volts. That means double, half. So let's draw with VCE equal to 10. So first we will take just any value of VC. So you should understand that here VC is 10 minus 0.7. So that is going to be whatever it is. That will be the value of VCB. And here, so VB is like a junction. So we will have a forward bias value. So here we have IB and here we have VBE. This is 0. And for here we have VCE is equal to 10 volts. VCE is equal to 10 volts. Now, if I want to show VC equal to 10, 20 and 5, will I show it on this side or this side? That is a matter of discussion. Now again, for that we have seen, you need to look at the way in which we had seen our BJT. So here we have emitter, you have base, and here you have collector. So this is junction J1, J2, emitter, base and collector. So we saw that if VCB is high, then IC will be high. But if IC is high, IB will be low. If VCB is low, IC will be low, but then IB will be high. So what is the meaning of that? If VCB increases, IB will decrease. That means the change in IB will be less. And here, if VCB decreases, then change in IB will be more. That means that if VCE is 5, that means if VCB reduces, that is, if I increase VCE, what will happen? If VCE becomes 20, then VCB is going to increase. If VCB increases, IB decreases. So here we will show the curve like this. This is for VCE is equal to 20, and if VC is 5, so here we will have 5. So this is what we should actually know. And the cutoff point is 0.7 volts. So this is called as the input characteristics. Now let us quickly see the output characteristics. So this is going to be our now output characteristics. And just recall, now here you have IC and here you have VCE. And now let us draw this a little bit carefully. It this way, and then you have to show it in this fashion. All this will terminate in one point. Just show it like this. Then we will have an explanation of this. So here you can write IB1 is 10 microamperes, IB2 is 20 micro, IB3 is 30 micro, and here we have, let us say that the gain is around 100. So This is, let's say this is in milliamperes. So this is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's say beta is 100. So this region is actually called as active, and this is called as saturation. It's called as saturation. So if you see the input characteristics, first if you see the input characteristics, let me just go back a little bit. For a given level of VBE, IB is reduced when higher VCE levels are employed. This is because VCB is equal to VCE minus VB. Now the higher VCE produces greater depletion region penetrations into the base, reducing the distance between the collector base and emitter base depletion regions. So due to this, what happens is more of the charge carriers from emitter flow across the emitter base collector base junction and fewer flow out through the base terminal. So that is what we wrote, that if VCB increases, IB decreases, and if VCB decreases, IB increases. As far as the output circuit is concerned, output characteristics, we can see here, since IE is not held constant as far as, so as it is for the common base characteristics, the shortening of the distance between the depletion region draws more charge carriers from the emitter to the collector. So although IB is constant, IC increases to some extent with increase in VCE. So actually speaking, what happens is your VCE starts from 0 to some maximum value. Let us say the maximum value is VDD or VCC. This value here is called as VCE SAT. It is called as what? VCE SAT. Now, if you increase VCE from 0, let us say initially VCE is what? Initially VCE is 0. So if VCE is 0, what will happen? Your current will also be 0. Your current will start from 0. There is no current, there is no voltage to drive the current on the output side. So the current starts at 0. Now what we do is, we do this for one particular value of IB. That means we have to keep some base current value when we are planning to change something in the output side. So voltages on the input side will remain constant. When you are doing the input characteristics, voltages on the output side will remain constant. Now here, once this saturation limit is reached, once this VCE SAT is reached, even if you increase the electric field, so VCE is increased, that means what? Once you reach a saturation value here, the electric field, you are trying to increase the electric field, but the rate at which electrons are injected from emitter to base is always constant, because that depends upon what you are applying here. That is plus minus, let's say VBE. That is what you are going to apply. Plus and minus. So excuse the symbol, but this is plus and minus. So this is, let's say, N plus P minus N. So the rate at which you are injecting the electrons inside the base is constant. And even if you increase the electric field further, you will not get an increased flow of electrons. So what I mean to say is that, let us say that the rate at which you are pouring the water inside a jar is constant, and if you open the tap and if there is no water in the tank, then what will happen? In spite how much ever you open the tap, the output is going to be equal to maximum the rate at which you are pouring the water. So I'll just give you one example here. It's a very nice example to understand these characteristics. Let us say I have a tank. Okay. And I am pouring water here with some velocity v1. Okay, inside the tank I am pouring the water. So there is some level. And here we have a tap. Something like this. So even if I open the tap full, that is maximum velocity, I can never get water out from this tap more than V1. It will be maximum, it will be what? V1 only. So that is the reason why what happens is that though you increase VCE, the velocity, that is VCE, is going to increase. VCE is going to increase like anything. But that increase in VCE is not, what do you say, it's of no use, because the rate at which you are injecting electrons inside the base is fixed. And that is the reason why you get the constant current here, because the rate of flow of electrons from emitter to base is fixed, and that is why that saturates the velocity of the electron. That is, the speed of electron becomes constant and current is nothing but rate of flow of electrons, and that is why the current also becomes constant. So beyond VCE sat, the current is going to become constant. So what it also means is that if I increase IB, my IC increases in active. So this principle I can use for amplification. That means I will apply something at the base which is in microamperes, and I'll get something at the collector which is in milliamperes. So we get an amplification effect when we try to create a variation at the base and try to see that on the collector side. So this is what it is. Now if you have any doubts in the input and output characteristics, please ask. So if you want, I'll just explain this part little bit again. VCE starts from 0 and maximum it can go up to, let us say, VCC. In between it encounters something called as VCE sat, and this particular region is, so it divides the characteristics into two regions, which you can see here also. It divides the characteristics into two regions. Now in this second case, what happens here is that you are injecting some electrons at a certain rate. So I'll say, just for the sake of it, 10 meters per second inside. And you are trying to pull everything from here into the collector. So what I mean to say is that how much ever force you apply, how much ever electric field you apply in this direction, the rate at which electrons will come into the collector from the base can never exceed can never exceed this value. Can never exceed this value. So if you increase VCE, your VCB also increases, but this increase is okay till a certain point, but when it crosses this value, the velocity of electrons that flow from base to collector become constant. So velocity becomes constant means what? Rate of flow of charge is constant, and rate of flow of charge means what? IC becomes constant, and the deciding value is VCE sat, and this value is generally 0.25 volts. This value is typically 0.25 volts. So this is basically your input and output characteristics. Underlining fact, input characteristics will always be IB versus VBE, and output characteristics will always be IC versus VCE. So that's it for today, and whatever we have done till